Alex Collier, Letters from Andromeda, February 1997. Publisher's notes. Our thoughts and wishes go out to all of you, in what is sure to be an exciting new year. Our Letters from Andromeda is now officially 1 year old. Alex, Carla, Debbie, and myself can proudly look back and say that it has been a wonderful experience full of unusual challenges to bring to print the messages of truth and common sense as shared by our Andromedan friends. For from the Andromedan perspective we shall remember how to put into action our separate, yet combined acts, of self-determination and self-responsibility through leadership. Recently we received correspondence that stated, "Sometimes it appears that you don't have adequate information to fill your 8 pages. The potent way in which Alex presented his material in Nexus should be the way you present your material. We need more specific information from Mirani and Vasai's. Why are you not giving it? You need to be less sentimental and more concentrated, serious. Or else give this important work to someone who is. Time is very short. Don't you realize this? Letters from Andromeda strives to bring to you Andromedan information in as timely a fashion as our personal lives allow. And that includes the Andromedans' lives too. Though all of us involved would like to be able to bring you information as readily as channeled information is brought forward, Alex, being a contactee, does not have the luxury of on-the-spot contact. Indeed, at times the probability of coming events may seem very dire, but if you were truly listening to the Andromedan messages, then you would instinctively know that our own Terran responsibility at this point in time is of maximum importance to our outcome. We must each in our own way say thanks to the Andromedans for having chosen to share with us their perspectives, based on our historic and current realities. For with this information we can draw upon our thoughts towards the enlightenment of ourselves in relation to our immediate future. My friends, they are not here to be our saviors. Each of our races have both common as well as separate goals to accomplish. Now this may slap some in the face, but the truth is, they do not have any obligation to work with us. They choose freely to do so, and for that, we welcome them to stand beside us, as our equals. So you see, this newsletter is not designed to be a workshop lecture as the Leading Edge/Nexus article Dallas video originally was. Information given to us by our Andromedan friends for release is not held back. Often we find it necessary to include some older material that supports past released material, for it brings forth additional emphasis on issues of greater importance. At times Alex and I contribute articles. This is done to share additional information and to motivate by example what it means to be a self-determined and responsible leader. If this is not clearly understood by now, stop reading Letters from Andromeda. It's not what you are looking for. Note, to our Earth Today friends, when the Procyon liberation information is shared with us by the Procyons or the Andromedans directly, rest assured it will then be printed. As you no doubt have noticed, this newsletter is a double issue, covering both our 96 year end and 97 beginning. While we have no new information to share at this point, please find Alex's article on The Grey Agenda loaded full of important information. The second half of the newsletter is an undertaking I elected to contribute, which took on a life of its own during its conception. All I wish to say about it is that each of us must take a critical look at all sources of information, this newsletter included, and determine for ourselves what we will believe is truth. In these coming times, you owe it to yourself to be truly responsible. For those of you who seek additional information, check out our new revised order form. Gone are the audio tapes. But we have some new videotapes, and we are extremely proud to announce the arrival of the book you have all been asking for. Defending Sacred Ground, the Andromedan Compendium, the amazing story of Alex Collier and his interaction with a race from Andromeda. This long-awaited book was painstakingly and lovingly edited by our good friend, Valdemar Valerian of the Leading Edge Research Group. Defending Sacred Ground takes in most of the information presented from the audio and videotapes, including special Leading Edge interviews. You will find the format of this book very precise, as only Val knows how to do it. Please take note that the index section is suburb. It will help you quickly navigate through the book to specific information that you desire to know or refresh up on. We cannot thank Val enough for what he has accomplished for Alex and the Andromedans. Within these pages you may go forward and confront the new and reconfirm the familiar, for all is truth and can only lead you to balance and enlightenment. Once you have taken the time to reflect upon the discovery of the emotions awakened within your being, there is only one last question to be asked. What have you really learned today? My fellow Terrans, remember, Do not turn on one another, for only together we will triumph. John. Editorial by Alex Collier. It is not enough that the isness gives us the gifts of love, physical form, and gifts of talent, for these are only a few pillars in which we build the foundation of life and its experiences. The building begins at birth. Foundations strengthen over years, mending the hurts and pains. The soul weakened by a lack of respect? The quickness and strength of healing does depend on our perception, our confidence and our ability to give and receive. Also on our ability to interact with one's own life. As Morani has taught me, we must strive to remain sensitive and to fulfill our commitments, and always honor our word. We must build our character and strength to overcome our disappointments, because storms of the soul can destroy our foundation of self-reliance and freedom. The storms will also weaken our minds. From birth to death these storms are constantly tearing down the foundation of the soul. That same soul can't build the strength to stand against adversity and tyranny. The major cities are full of these kinds of people. The cities are the eye of the storm. So many are so stuck in their personality, to ever change. We as a race can learn knowledge without wisdom. It's time, now, to prepare yourself by going into silence. Truth within us is silent. Morani once said. He added, on your world, conditioning is the voice so often spoken. It is not by the word or thoughts that are spoken that reveal to us the soul. In our perception it is man's silence that we come to know him best. Human beings on your world become blind if they continue to walk as the shadow of their own enlightenment. Your race is so lonely. Your loneliness as we perceive is a lack of responding to your environment. In all things the law of consistency creates balance. Remember your intent, whether honorable or fraudulent, truly your acts must justify your action. Alex, no thing of importance or living essence can be created unless there is intent. We refer to this as pre-existing. These things become reality in your world, with the ingredient of time. Tell your race to seek the honorable in themselves, and not the wrong in others. Be at 1. April 23, 1987. One night I fell asleep in the grass behind my home in Malibu. I awoke suddenly to find Morani sitting next to me. I'll never forget his words to me. He just spoke them, stood up and walked into the light blue, and left. Here's what he said. We have become aware that a great majority of your races are unaware of philosophy and logic, understanding and knowledge of their soul. We observe many Terrans seeing and feeling what others told them or spoken, whom it appears were taught by former Terrans. Has your race lost the self-awareness of your own discovery? Friends, please respect each other. Alex. A plea for consistency, leadership, empowerment. As a planetary race it is imperative that we work together in harmony while preparing to embark upon the next stage of our combined experience in this new year. We must show by our actions what it truly means to account for our own behavior and acts, which must clearly demonstrate both our individual and combined intentions. Now is the time when others must recognize our inalienable right to determine our own course of evolution by exercising our rights through the fundamental axiom of free will and sovereign self-determination of choice. My friends, when I sat down and wrote the call to action, these ideals were on my mind. Without self-confident determination and responsibility we will not achieve what is our combined destiny this lifetime, to genuinely be sincere and sure of oneself, not under the power or control of others, independent and not burdened by obligation or confined by rules, conditions, or reservations, yet being absolute, in account of one's behavior and actions without being confined or restrained by blind faith and or force in believing in some lofty, superior power. I thank those of you who have chosen to pledge your support. We have a long way to go and a short period of time in which to accomplish our tasks. Please continue to keep up your efforts in spreading the truth, regardless of the public ridicule you may face. Remember that each member of our race is entitled to their opinion and that all opinions should be respected. During the month of December 1996, our group encountered many who sought answers from the Andromedans regarding subjects ranging from Hale-Bopp and its companion, a predicted mass landing, to a pending arrival of 2 photon belts. Prior to December, Morani relayed to Alex that by December 5th, there would be those who would strike out in opposition to us. Sure enough, we received correspondence that resorted to ridicule because the Andromedan responses to questions posed were not what they wanted to hear. Some declared, why should we work so hard to achieve when others have promised that we shall receive based on divine intervention? Other statements declared that the Andromedans seem to disappear just when predicted events of importance are about to happen. And finally, It all culminated with an outright attack by a reputable UFO researcher who derived his information through an unrecognizable source, claiming to be the inventor of the Dracow scenario, whom Alex supposedly borrowed from. And I quote, "I think Alex is just another synthesizer, purveying false information for his own aggrandizement. This just hurts serious researchers who are just coming to accept these alien life forms and are searching for some truth about them. My friends, we are not dealing here with the religion of ufology or any other religious belief system. Nor is our intention to destroy anyone's beliefs. What is being shared with you is a reminder that each of us is a responsible leader." Morini once stated, "Those persons who have done the inner work on the path of being a true human being, acquire wisdom and courage and are true leaders. They always have faith in themselves. Those who walk the path of heart will discover that through faith emerges wisdom. And the same faith enables the leaders to employ their wisdom effectively in all situations. Courage is indispensable to be a leader. Leadership is no place for cowardice. Always strive to advance wisdom and courage. Having faith in yourself, to have the courage and conviction in your wisdom that empowers you, and knowing that you are that power in action." Morini summed up his thoughts by saying, "Being a leader or becoming a leader does not mean you have perfect faith or wisdom. These are lifelong pursuits. Being a leader is to help develop people, and to help people develop into self-responsibility, to be spiritually mature and free, and to cultivate voluntary introspection. People, it really is not just all love and light awaiting us. Even those ET races that are labeled benevolent, just like us, find themselves in situations where they too must rely on offensive and defensive scenarios to assure their safety and/or the safety of others they choose to defend. The Andromedans shared with us that if a race leans too far towards a positive direction, that the race will eventually encounter overtly positive aspects that results in negative outcomes. And that the opposite holds true for those races that lean toward the negative direction, as they will also encounter negative aspects that result in positive outcomes. The only truly responsible path to take is one where you walk the middle ground. It is there that you will encounter your most challenging lessons of real value. Taking the middle path is the test of your empowerment and leadership, tempered by consistency. It must be realized that by our actions now and in the near future, many of us can position ourselves for the transition to fifth density. This will be of great excitement to us all, and it means that many of us will have opportunity to go home to those races from which we came. For those races of a benevolent nature, our return will mark new learning and growth due to our emotions. And those of the malevolent nature, we will bring with us that which they have avoided within our emotional experiences. In any event, the law of consistency will prevail. At this time, I would like to address certain basic questions that have been asked of us through the month of December. First, Alex does not channel the Andromedans. Alex physically meets with them at a location of their choosing, or he receives telepathic one-way communications, two-way conversations, and sometimes messages left in lucid dreams. Alex can place a call out to his Andromedan friends, but they do not always respond, usually because they are not in the area or are usually very busy doing other important tasks. For this reason, we cannot always get answers to your questions until they once again communicate with Alex. Please note that even then the conversations can be short in duration, one way, and with a focused topic. Many have inquired about the Hale-Bopp situation. Please note that a photograph showing 3 moon-sized objects in Hale-Bopp's a craft tail supports statements made almost 2 years earlier from the Andromedans, when they stated that these moon-shaped motherships would indeed be in the tail. And now, regarding the companion as it is being called, please refer back to the April 1996 issue of our newsletter, when the Andromedans mentioned that another comet craft was seen quickly coming from the constellation of Cancer, heading towards our sector of space, and would arrive at about the same time or slightly after Hale-Bopp. Well, the companion just might be the reported craft we have been hearing about. It has been asked, are both comets crafts benevolent or malevolent? On December 12, 1996, Alex had the leading-edge research post that as of September 1996, large motherships from the Andromedan Council began to take position in our solar system. As of November 3, 1996, there are 7 large ships in our solar system that have been stationed here, and will remain here. 2 of the ships are Andromedan 900-mile diameter spheres. The distribution of the Andromedan Council ships as of December 12, 1996 are as follows: 1 ship near Ganymede, 1 adjacent to Uranus, and 5 ships near Neptune. According to Morini, Most probably there will be more ships arriving in our solar system before the arrival of the Hale-Bopp complex, which involved primarily the Orion group and groups from Sirius B. Additionally, it was noted that the ships seen in the area of Israel are connected with the Nibiru group Jehovah has returned, who have interacted with upper portions of the Israeli government for decades in order to retain control of the Middle Eastern area, somehow connected with the control of the planet by the Orion group. Today no news is yet to come from the Andromedans relating directly to the companion. I want to share with you an incident that we stumbled upon during late summer 1996. We started receiving email from the Hawaiian Islands about a gentleman who was having contacts with some Sirians. Being the inquisitive one that I am, I started asking questions via email through a contact person whose job it was in helping the person circulate the Sirian information out to others. Well, first I wanted to know, from what planet were these Sirians from? The answer was Sirius B for me. All my alarms went off. So now my quest was to ask a series of questions to see if I could provoke these so-called benevolent Sirian Bs into proving their benevolence. I kept Alex in the loop to support and back my play. Between us, we started coming up with questions for these Sirian Bs to answer, paying close attention to how they worded their answers. At first they answered straightforward, but as time went on they grew uptight about my incessant questioning of their stated answers. When the contactee started questioning their intentions, they finally showed their true nature and became violent towards the contactee. At the time, we had Alex call the contactee direct and recommended methods to block their influences, since they were no longer welcome and were getting quite harmful. Well, the contactee was successful in turning them away. During all of this, we learned that the Sirian Bs were setting up a base of operations in the Hawaiian Islands near Maui. Here is why I brought this up. Many of you know there is a group of Sirian Bs that are stating that a divine-sanctioned mass landing was to take place during the month of December 1996. We received many questions asking if the Andromedans knew anything about all of this. We frankly had no answers other than the Andromedans' past statements that the Siren Bs were malevolent. We took a little heat over this, but decided it was best to keep quiet. It should be noted, we had not heard any mention about this from the Andromedans currently or even before. Well, as we all know, the mass landing did not take place. We figured that if this was really to take place, then the Andromedans would have told us about it well in advance. We never heard a word on it, and since they did not rush to tell us anything, we felt it was best to hold silence. We figured if the mass landing was going down, then the Andromedan Council forces would be engaged in battle right now. As a reminder, remember that the Sirian Bs walked out on the Andromedan Council when they were informed them that the entire Andromedan race and all council races would stand up in force against any who would seek to deny us of our right to advance ourselves, on our own. Another source shared with me that malevolent forces have infiltrated a segment of the Ashtar Command. Have we not always been told to beware of those who would try and deceive us? This is why it is so important that you pay close attention to how extraterrestrial races word their statements. Some specific questions. Why would the Creator's divine timetable have to be altered because of our illegal government's actions? Are these not the same beings who said they would shut down all electricity and weapons prior to landing for everyone's safety? Why do they keep changing the Creator's original timetable? Were we not told that the Andromedans would be involved in the mass landing? A surprise mass landing sounds more like what the movie Independence Day was all about. We should be aware of beings who say one thing, while doing another, just like the campy movie Mars Attacks, where the Martians tell the people, "We come in peace," while they blast away with their so-called superior weapons. If this were to come to pass, remember that the Andromedans have stated that we only need to collectively change our intent through our collective conscious thought and the battle would be over before it begins. What are we to make of the photon belts? The Andromedans have stated in the past that they have not been able to detect any photon belts coming from any direction towards our solar system. That has been our position. Besides, you would figure that they should have the ability to recognize a photon belt if they were to encounter one. Again, if something like this were to be coming, would not the Andromedans have told us prior to the event? So far not a peep. And guess what? It seems to have not appeared for the masses. Now we are told of a protective hologram that is being used to protect us from the dangers of the void created by the collision of the two photon belts. First off, the Andromedans have stated before that the Sirian Bs do not have the technical ability to place a hologram around anything or anybody. If they did, would that not be a violation of our free will choice? Did you and I say they could do that? How could a hologram protect you from the effects of the photon belt, since we have been told that the photon belt penetrates everything? Since our existence is a hologram within a hologram residing in a 21 trillion-year-old hologram, how can a race of beings that do not possess the ability to create a hologram then have one placed around us that blocks the effects? The angelic hierarchy, maybe. Why would the effects want to be blocked, since we have been told all along that the effects are what we have been waiting for? The closest the Andromedans have come to a possible photon belt-like experience would be when on March 23, 1994 a color-sound frequency started to emanate from the black holes in our known universe, bring forth a 12th density, that is changing everything. In our holographic universe, nobody has control over this. It is coming from outside our universe, and it is literally using frequency to evolve everything to a higher density level or plane. The Andromedans shared with Alex that, those of us who have an intent to evolve, that intent would emit a frequency. While he cannot honestly tell us for sure what the emotion involved is, let's assume it is love. Those people who truly hold the space of love, what will happen is that they will be able to absorb more of the incoming frequency, which means that they will start to shed the physicality. The atoms in your body will start to speed up faster and faster and faster, so you will literally be disappearing from third density and going between worlds. Those who choose not to be in that space of withholding love, or they have fear, what will happen is that they will become more and more dense because they will not be absorbing the light, the sound or the frequency, and the soul will become encrusted or encased in the physicality. And at some point between third and fourth, or third and fifth, there is a threshold where the two will separate. So those who choose to evolve will migrate up to fifth density, while those who wish to remain in third will go through a black hole to a newly created universe of time, where they will create something new. This is what we know. Now, does this sound like the photon belt to you? My opinion is, you must take responsibility if you were to change, not just expect it to be handed to you. As of January, the Syrian Bees stated that the original time frame proved unacceptable to the divine plan, and a new date has been set for later in the year. Hail Bob's arrival? They stated, be aware that we are determined to achieve our first contact with you as soon as the divine plan allows. Further stated, at the time of our coming, the full extent of this ancient wisdom will be fully revealed to all the various members of Earth's many, many tribes. In any case, you must understand that we are your ancestors and most of all, also your parents. Is this related to Hopi prophecy? We are also told that our planet's surface governments have been advised of their intent and fact of the landing is coming up. Since our governments have been covering up this information, they say they have some surprises for them in the coming weeks. They say our governments have some chinks in their armor and we will use it to get our point firmly across. The Syrian Bees top this off with the statement, this cat and mouse game, as you call it, is almost over, but what we like is a good final contest that sets the stage for our arrival. Well, my friends, it was similar wording like this that triggered our discovery of the Syrian Bee malevolent intentions during the summer. I can't speak for you, but when language like the ones I have highlighted above is used, I don't get a rush of feeling a benevolent intent. I believe our governments have heard from them, but not the good-natured message that we are being told. If it was good-natured, our government should be relieved of their secret burden they have kept from us all these years, since this would be a force of considerable size for any malevolent races to try and challenge. If it were a good thing, don't you think we would hear about it? But if it were a bad thing, now I could understand our government not wanting to panic the people, yet. Now what are we to think of the words surface governments? Does this mean that there are governments under the surface, maybe? Or that those under the surface are on their side and are awaiting their arrival before coming out into the open? Let's not forget the Greys, Dows and Alpha Draconians, who have many bases underground. With the previous information from the Andromedans about the arriving benevolent motherships, does this give us that Independence Day picture, with a twist? Wait, I have more comments. We were told that our illegal government knew about the photon belt but would not tell us about its coming. First, when did our government become illegal? Though the United States government may no longer be looking out for our best interests, but from its conception it was not illegally conceived. Though the United States Republic's challenge down through time would be to hold on to our freedoms and style of government, so declared Benjamin Franklin. Have we given up yet? Another incident comes to mind that I must comment on. It was stated that the military has stepped up its alert status and that many have reported seeing jets streaking across the sky all over the nation. Well, I do a lot of traveling, and I always keep my eyes to the sky wherever I go. For years I have been observing military jets and helicopters all over the nation. I have not noticed any more activity than usual to date, in my travels. What I believe is going on here is that others are actually looking up and paying attention to what's going on overhead for the first time. To them, the action in the sky is new and could seem as if the prediction were correct. I can see how a false prophet would use this type of tactic to convince others of truth by deception. How many people watch the military in the skies above? Most recently, the Syrian-based Galactic Federation issued some decrees about the upcoming mass landings. On January 20, 1997, they stated, "The Galactic Federation will formally change its policy concerning the treatment of any military aircraft who pursue any Federation vehicles who are occupying airspace of this planet." It went on to state that our fighter aircraft will be treated as hostile in nature and dealt with accordingly. When the sweepable aircraft from the skies before the landings, all military fighter aircraft are hereby put on notice that their escape/ejection seats will be fired before their aircraft are vaporized by our defense forces. They went on to claim that they have lost personnel recently and will not tolerate this action or the capture of their people pursuing peaceful tasks. They finished the decree by stating, "We will not continue to tolerate any further childish acts by your illegal and barbaric surface governments." In their second decree dated January 22, they stated, "We are deeply honored that we will soon help you to end the most long and inglorious reign of your illegal surface governments." Are we to believe that this is how benevolent races act? Sounds to me like threats, not love. How about an invasion of our free will rights to protect ourselves from the unknown? Can't they realize that a smaller diplomatic approach might be best with media involvement as a better way than just coming down in mass numbers? Invasion force. What they are asking to do is next to impossible without prior notification to the entire world population. Why don't they take control of the media and bring forth their true intentions? And now our governments are not only illegal but barbaric. Surface, there's that word again, governments. Again, our governments have much to be desired, but is this really the kind of talk you would expect from benevolent beings? I still don't feel any love in the message. Rather, I feel lots of anger and fear-inducing taunting. Maybe the Syrian bees are implying that our underground governments are okay. How many by show of hands think the shadow government is good for the world population? Don't be bashful now, let's see those hands. Isn't the shadow government involved with preparing us for turnover to the master overlord races? All I am trying to say is look at the statements made, especially the words chosen to be used. Highlighted. It is this author's opinion that the Syrian bees have proven again that they are master deceivers. Maybe it was a test to see what numbers of our population would respond to this very benevolent-sounding information. Be honest, how many of us fell for it? The Syrian bees were offering us by divine intervention plan a gift of great importance. All we had or have to do is meditate, wait and just let it happen. All would benefit. We as a race need to think about these issues some more and what they imply. The Andromedans shared with us in the last newsletter this statement: religions become divisions of beliefs, and conflicts among your races took place. The worship of belief systems and idolatry came into existence. Does some of what recently happened regarding the mass landing and the photon belt issues sound like many of the old familiar religious belief systems? How about a ufology, New Age belief system that takes in all the world's religious belief systems? Now where do you place your faith? Let me continue with what the Andromedans have said. Now the technology of advanced races and higher densities have taken control of your evolutionary systems. By means of this system's control, the evolution of certain dimensions and reincarnations are now becoming history, and by this means, your races, Alex, and others than yours, have a probability of directly attaining your full senses. The reason for telling you this truth in all clarity is to free you of the conflicts and contradictions so your races can attain the truth as soon as possible. So don't ask us about yourself, ask about yourself to your own self. This is why the true path to enlightenment is through our own empowerment by believing in ourselves. To know that we are each responsible leaders, and through our leadership via the law of consistency, we can each obtain that for which we seek, our true full beingness. I have said this many times before, but it needs continual repeating. No one source within our holographic reality has all the answers. Look upon all with an open mind. Look at the messages and the messages given forth. If they seem too true to be real, then I suggest you study them closer before you decide. Many forces are out to make sure that we remain a deceived race. Anything that strikes you as controlling or manipulative, my advice is leave it behind, for it will not serve your true purposes. Watch out for offers of enlightenment and salvation, especially where you do not have to do anything but believe. Truthfully, when in life has anything just been given to us without us creating some action for it first? My friends, it was not my intention in this article to offend any of you, but if I did, then maybe it's time to rethink how you fit within the whole reality of our combined holographic creation. Please learn to live in harmony with each other, for we are but a single race. Never allow others to control your free will or sovereign right of choice. Don't ask of others what you yourself would not be willing to do. Love yourself first and then carry that love over to all others. The time has come for each of us to be the true leaders that we were born to be. Are you ready? With utmost respect and love, John Robinson. The Grey Agenda. The Greys made contact with a world governmental body for the first time in 1933 in Germany. However, they were turned away by the German government because it had already committed itself to involvement with the Giza intelligence, a renegade group of human extraterrestrials that were headquartered on the Giza Plateau in Egypt. They were predominantly plebeians. They were on their own, doing their own thing. Ashtar, Kamigal, and even Jehovah were a part of the group, for some time. They came down here and played God with us. People worshipped them because they had technology which they used it as their power, big time. During the 1930s, the Germans were building rockets and starting a space program due to their contacts with the extraterrestrials of the Giza intelligence. The technology developed, however, was used to create weapons because the German governmental body involved were concerned that there was going to be an alien invasion. The Giza intelligence had told them that the Greys were here to invade, but this actually did not occur. Plans for weapons such as sound devices, lasers, neutron bombs, particle beam weapons, etc. were designed. Although many of these weapons were not created until much later in history, a lot of other technology was shared with the Germans, by the Giza intelligence, like how to do, anti-gravity, free energy, etc. The United States was the first to open its doors to the alien race known as the Greys. I have been told of only one contact in 1934, where the Greys made their presence known to the United States government, in the state of Washington. I don't know the particular details, but somehow the government knew that the Greys were there. It wasn't until 1947 that actual contact occurred with the aliens and United States officials. The first face-to-face contact was due to the shooting down of an alien craft, namely the Roswell incident. This pressed the Greys into a contact earlier than they had actually anticipated doing themselves. After the crash in Roswell, the United States, the Soviet Union, and the British, at the very highest levels, became blood brothers. By the way, none of these governments knew what Germany was really up to. The Germans were very secretive about their contact with the Giza intelligence. The Roswell incident created more of an urgency to develop a true space program to defend the Earth. The United States and the Soviet governments thought that this alien presence could be a threat, because these aliens were so technologically more advanced. But the Greys, in their own fashion, really backdoored these governments through deceit. The true space program, this underground program that we are just now beginning to hear about, was originally financed by members of the Club of Rome. Now, you need to do some homework to find out who those members are. And don't be surprised at who you see. We will talk more about that later, when we discuss the moon. Prior to this, in the 1850s to the 1950s, 100 years, there had been some utilization of cattle and humans in experiments by the Greys. The NSA, which was created in the 1950s, learned that the Greys were responsible. In 1952, the United States government prepared itself for the realization of ongoing alien contact when our military radar system started to down their craft. The Greys knew that in order to perform their experiments on such a large scale, to save their race, they would need the cooperation of a high political body. In other words, they had to come to terms. A select politically structured body, created secretly within the United States government, was designed to be the liaison between the Greys, the technological gods, and the Earth humans. The military was very enthusiastic for communication with the aliens, in hopes of exchanging technology for raw materials. This liaison group, this political structure, was the NSA, the super-secret national security agency. For contact and study of the aliens was its original purpose. In May of 1954, at the Holloman Air Force Base, the United States government made a formal agreement with the gray alien race. Some of the terms of this agreement were the exchange of technology, of anti-gravity, metals, alloys, and environmental technologies to assist the Earth with free energy and medical application regarding the human body. All the Greys asked for in return was to be allowed to study the human development, both in the emotional consciousness makeup, and to reside here on Earth. This single act of signing a contract with an extraterrestrial race was the most significant act in human history because it launched us in a direction we were never intended to go in the first place, and it thrust us into a role that we were not prepared for either: being hosts to an alien race. Essentially, what this contract has also done, has handcuffed the Andromedan Council and those benevolent extraterrestrial races from being able to take a more active role in the Earth's evolution. It has placed the burden squarely on the shoulders of humanity to enlighten itself of the facts, and to consciously create ascension on an individual basis. Because this particular treaty was agreed upon between the aliens and the Ultra units and the NSA, which actually is a government unto itself, they in effect turned away help from outside benevolent races that we could have obtained before. Now pay close attention, because this is the first time I've ever mentioned this. The particular document and original exchange material may be found today in the NSA facility, called Blue Moon, under Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico. Its exact entrance is in the Manzoni Mountains. This location houses the private Department of Energy Technological Labs. Currently, the building of free energy devices for use in space and on the Moon and Mars is ongoing, in this particular area. Much of the alien technology has been reconstructed and sent via a connecting tunnel to Los Alamos and an area located underneath the cliff sides of Los Alamos Canyon, where huge vaults are built into the earth. This facility is 29,000 square feet in size. There are also laboratories equipped to study light, thought and pure energy there. This facility is also used as a jail for aliens captured by the black, secret government. Corporations that are currently assisting the aliens and the black government are Standard Oil, Lockheed, Northrop, McDonnell Douglas, AT&T, IT&T, the A.A. Matthews Construction Company, the Robbins Company, the Utah Mining Company, and numerous more. The NSA is exempt from all laws in the United States unless the NSA itself is specifically mentioned in any creation of law. This is due to its interaction with aliens and its sometimes necessary infringements of civil rights and constitutional rights of the American people. In other words, to make it exempt from breaking any laws and hurting anybody here, they made it completely separate. And it is completely separate, even though your tax dollars pay for the running of it. There was also a great deal of private money used by the NSA to build the alien technology and to keep humanity under control. The status quo secure. Even the CIA doesn't know much about the Ultra or Blue Moon units of the NSA. These are the two highest units the NSA has that deals directly with alien technology and information. Now realize that the Greys are genetic engineers, though not the only ones. Most of the aliens from off-planet are genetic engineers because they value life forms as opposed to gold and silver. Genetics, life forms and things of that nature is their wealth. A lot of the genetic engineering and experimentation is going on here, on Earth and on Mars moon Phobos, by the Greys. They are using this opportunity to try to satisfy their own agenda, which is to create DNA and genetic stock that is clean enough to foster new physical life forms that are capable of regeneration and birth for their race. As of right now, the Greys are most interested in female genetic stock because all family lineages follow the female rather than the male. Why? Because you always know who your mother is, you may not always know who your father is. Many new races have been created this way throughout our galaxy. It's not something that's new going on here. This has been going on for a very long time. Few races today have actually remained as pure genetic stock, with the exception of two races that the Andromedans say are really genetically clean. That is the reptilians from Alpha Draconis, and the other is what we call, or know as the Elohim, which are a very ancient race of humans that survived Lyra. All other races are a varied degree of hybrid or mixture of races of different genetic stock. Another point is that, the Greys themselves would like to be free from the Orion Empire. They will have no chance of survival themselves if they do not create or match their body type or genetics with ours. You see, time is quickly running out for them and we as a race is also evolving at a tremendous rate. On a spiritual conscious level, we are evolving dramatically, making our genetics harder to use while they are dying out like there's no tomorrow. And they are very aware of this fact. So, even though what they're doing is wrong, They really are caught in a very tough position themselves. Because what they are doing to us has been done to them. I'm just trying to draw parallels. I'm not justifying it in any way. By the way, when any of the aliens give birth to a child, they take that child outside of the Earth's atmosphere so the child is born fully aware of its reincarnational history, so it realizes who it is, and it doesn't carry the veil. Why is this? Apparently, there is some kind of agreement. If you're born within the Earth's atmosphere, you've got to be veiled. It's just part of what comes with being born here. The Grey's Master's assigned agenda is to create a slave race which is currently in full swing, for the purposes of control, physical services, labor and sexual energy. Now I will explain this. The acts of feeding, war, anger, psychic energy, genetic experiments, hybrids as a food source, genetic and biological materials. The Greys and their masters feed off this, our energy. As examples, if two people are fighting, they create a lot of emotional negative energy. And this is why you will find that whenever there are wars going on, there's a lot of UFO activity. Negative energy. They just feed off it. It's likened to when you're making love to your man or to your wife, and you reach that moment where you are both at the same place at the same time, in a loving, benevolent way. That's how it feels for them regarding negative energy release. The energy of fear, that rush of adrenaline, young teens on a battlefield running around scared, this is what they crave, all of the negative emotional aspects. They have also been doing extensive research on the human brain and its capabilities as well as study of the soul. Many people who have been implanted by the Greys, those who are aware of it and those who still aren't, must become aware of the fact that they have actually been on a kind of machine and are being shown and trained to do something. According to the Andromedans, the Greys are training us to fight their war against the Draconians, one of their masters, when they get here, because they are going to use us as their soldiers. Just like when our military sends in the infantry and marines, those implanted will be the first ones on the beach. While the Greys sitting back on board their ships drinking champagne or having a gin and tonic, and wondering how the battle is going. And they have chosen our world to be the battleground. At the same time they are still going about preparing the Earth for its new owners. Apparently, the Greys are going to make this attempt, but the inevitable truth is that the reptilians from Alpha Draconis are on their way here now. And this has very serious implications for us. Now, honestly, I'm not here to promote fear. I don't believe in it. But I'm telling you what I've been told to tell you. We have boxed ourselves into a corner and the only way we can change the outcome is that we have to consciously become aware of what our world is really about, what's really going on here. And we have to create a space of love. Folks, that's the bottom line. By creating a space of love, the Greys, the Draconians, the Orions won't be able to handle the vibration. They have got to leave, or we're going to have to ask for some serious intervention here. In which case, there's going to be war in the heavens as the Bible has predicted. It will be all about saving us. You know, this talk about Ashtar coming down here to save you. Ladies and gentlemen, it isn't going to happen. It's just another belief system. Or how about Commander Hatton, who is saying we will take you to Mars? No thanks. I don't want to go to Mars. It just isn't going to happen that way. Nobody is going to save you, because according to the Andromedans, if you're sitting here waiting for a savior, you're not doing the work yourself. And who would come down here to take you off the hook? For what purpose? You will only recreate the situation again someday. If you haven't permanently evolved to that level of becoming your own savior, your own messiah, then you haven't learned your life's lessons. And this is what the Andromedan's strongest message is. You have got to do the work yourself. You are only responsible for yourself. Nobody is going to take you off the hook. Matter of fact, if they do end up intervening on our behalf, they are not going to stick around afterward and babysit us. That means we have got to get it straight. That we as a race, have got to come together and decide what it is that we want and how we want to live. How are we going to raise our children? What moralities, what laws, etc. not to be told by somebody else out there, what is best for us? Folks, it's never worked before, and it isn't going to work now. Most human beings would rather die than live being a slave. That's just our nature, our soul, to be free. We're at that point again. What will we choose? You see, the Greys are currently monitoring the brainwaves of those they have implanted. They have done this for the better part of 100 years on Earth. So generations of family members have had implants. The cloning of human beings, of life forms and the art of subversion was taught by the Greys to the NSA. On the two highest levels of human interaction with the Greys within the NSA, there exists cloned human beings and humans so heavily implanted, that according to the Andromedans, they do not consider them human beings anymore. They have joined the group mind of the Greys. They have lost free will. They are clone robots. Their soul is trapped and they are no longer considered compassionate human beings. The Greys cloned their own race into a caste of slaves, just like ants. They all basically think the same things at the same time. Their minds are like radios. If there are no radio waves, they don't do anything. They have computers which transmit the radio-like waves, telling them what their jobs are, their functions that they must carry out. If the computers, their group mind, were shut down, the Greys would no longer know what to do for themselves. They do not possess individual intelligence like us, although they would very much like to create us to be like them. The Greys also consider what we call God, a mind, like we think of our own mind. They have completely detached themselves from their spiritual essence, so long ago, that their physical existence and personality has become pure ego. The Draconians are pure ego, as well. Many other races genetically altered by the Draconians, are also experiencing the separation from their own essence too. Now, I don't understand the process or exactly how it works, but the Greys no longer believe themselves to be spirit, to be an essence. They are trapped mentally, emotionally, physically in a physical existence, therefore, that's all they see. They literally disown and fractionalize themselves away from their spiritual essence. It's no longer a part of them. Human beings have also been known to do that themselves, as well. You know we can fractionalize ourselves into many different personalities. The Greys are pure ego. They are very sophisticated in mathematics and energy sciences. It has been said that our military at the time of the Holloman Air Force meeting, that there was an exchange of personnel. Our military gave the Greys 16 military personnel and that were supposed to be taken to the Greys' point of origin and that they left us 1 or 2 guys or something of theirs along those same lines. Well, according to the Andromedans, it was really 109 human beings that were taken at that particular exchange. They have not returned. As a matter of fact, they did not go to the Greys' point of origin, which was Zeta Reticula 2, rather they went to the motherships and Phobos where they were experimented on. The Greys gave virus technology to the NSA, which then was handed on to lower levels within our military complex. In Africa, we find the testing ground for the AIDS virus. There's a reason for this. This virus technology was given by the Greys to the biological unit in Ultra within the NSA. One of NSA's underground facilities is underneath Fort Meade in Maryland. At that location there are 19 acres of underground caverns, with some of the most highly technological and sophisticated supercomputers in the world, that were built and designed inside the facility. They have never seen the light of day. This area, and the one in Mount Hood, Oregon are engaged in massive surveillance of the world's telephones, telegraph, telex, fax, radio, television, microwave communication, NIRID and also space radio waves. The complex in Mount Hood is where our military is cloning human beings and aliens. I don't know what alien races. Jumping back in history a bit. In the late 1950s, the Greys also approached the Russians regarding the signing of treaties and mutual exchange. The Russians, however, already at the time, were included in the proceedings of the NSA, chose not to sign this independent treaty because they knew full well that the Greys would try to pit the United States against the Soviet Union. It is in fact the Soviet Union that informed JFK of the Greys' presence during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Andromedans have stated that the Russians were trying to blackmail the United States into sharing the alien technology, thus the Bay of Pigs. That's when they put the missiles there pointed at the United States. The Russians became increasingly aware that the NSA and the CIA were developing incredible technology and were not sharing it, as was their agreement, shortly after the Holloman Agreement. Apparently, JFK asked the CIA 3 times if the Russian allegations were true. The CIA lied twice to the president. Even though nuclear weapons were only 18 minutes away from striking the United States, they just flat out lied to him and said, no. They are nuts. This prompted JFK to want to scatter the CIA to the winds. This is one of the more important reasons the black government found JFK as a threat and had him make a physical transition prematurely. It was JFK's desire that some of this technology would reach the common people and be used for the betterment of mankind, and that it be made known to the American people that the alien presence was upon us. This is one of the reasons why he successfully launched a civilian space program so that all Americans and people of the world could share in the discovery. In 1953, satellites and radars showed large objects coming towards the Earth. They were gray motherships. These time-traveling spacecrafts were the same craft seen near Venus in 1787, 1788, 1789. In 1635, it was reported that a large moon was seen near Venus. For other times, as well in the same year, it was seen coming and going. The last time it was reported was in 1767. The same type of occurrence happened around Mars, on November 25, 1894. A large ship was seen illuminating part of Mars. The same occurrence for Mercury in 1799. The same large planetary body crossed the Sun on August 26, 1859, and this same body today, that's still there, is called Vulcan. It's a mothership. It isn't a planet. During the total eclipse of July 29, 1878, astronomers saw two large glowing planetary bodies, about the size of Venus, between Mercury and Venus. According to the Andromedans, these were Pleiadian and Andromedan motherships that had gone back in time. They were observing the grays orbiting around the Sun. They wanted me to share all these dates with you. I don't necessarily know why, but here are some more. In 1783 and 1787, huge bright lights were reported on the Moon. They were mistakenly reported as volcanoes, at first. But then they moved and lit up the dark side of the Moon, which caused a noticeable glow around the top portion of the Moon. In February of 1894, a comet was apparently photographed striking a huge dark object in our solar system. It happened to have wings and, according to the Andromedans, this was a draconian mothership. The same phenomena occurred in April 4, 1892, and it was about one-third the size of the Moon, 600 to 700 miles in diameter. As it crossed, astronomers thought that it was a bird, but its wings didn't flutter. Again, this was a draconian mothership. This was observed again on January 27, 1912. A ship 250 miles long, 50 miles wide, resembling a crow, was sitting on the Moon. According to the Andromedans, this again was a craft from reptilian Alpha Draconis. Many operations have been created by the Greys over the past 500 years for the purposes of manipulation and control of our religious belief systems. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to tell you just the way it's been presented to me. All you have to do is listen. If it doesn't feel right for you, then dismiss it. If it does feel right, and you get the chills, then maybe you should start paying attention to it. To have us morally and spiritually compromise our free will to a savior-like image, the Greys, by allowing us to compromise ourselves under these false pretenses, they are absolved from the creating any karma for themselves. Instead, they let us create the karma to ourselves. It really is such a setup. The power of belief systems can be used as fuel for the game of seducing people into believing that certain things are true. By the power created by the conscious thoughts, we can literally make these things occur and come true, whether they benefit us or not. These are real spiritual dynamics at work here, and they are being used against us. Our physical matter, physical body, is the embodiment of ideas or belief systems. Our universe consists of ideas and thought systems, condensed and turned towards itself, inwards. We turn it towards ourselves to create an originate spirit and energy. Now if I need to say it again, I will. This is our definition again, word for word. Our physical matter is the embodiment of ideas, belief systems. Our universe consists of ideas and thought, condensed and turned towards itself, inwards. To create an originate spirit and energy. In other words, we really are gods. We really can do anything we want to do. We, of Earth, have evolved only in technical and material sciences. Our spiritual evolution, for the most part, has been suppressed from us by a group of extraterrestrials, and now the black government and its plan for a new world order. Because upon learning these spiritual truths, the NSA and the black world government realized that everything that they have been trying to do can be swept away. According to the Andromedans, and their exact words were, could be swept away in a day, should humanity become enlightened. If 1 billion people come to the realization and a decision that we no longer want this reality, it can literally change with the setting and the rising of the sun. But, they stress, we need to be clear of what we want, which is part of the decision, and our responsibility factors. That is ours. In other words, if we are going to create it, we take responsibility for it. The Shroud of Turin. According to the Andromedans, this is one example of the extraterrestrial manipulation or assault of our belief systems. This holographic image on the shroud was created by the Greys to strengthen a belief system in a savior or messiah. This belief system assists their plan for control because humanity would love to give their power away to someone that appeared to be a true and legitimate messiah, because we've been taught to do that. The Greys know that few people truly want to accept responsibility for their own evolution. Most would rather be told what to do, than to realize the situation and take the appropriate action necessary to free themselves. To further realize the Grey manipulation on a belief system level, there is also a plan in development to play out a stage second coming. This will occur shortly after the destruction of the world economy, maybe 6 years, tops. This being will be a clone human being, a biological, who will holographically be imprinted with everything from spiritual truths regarding information about all religions, metaphysics, and he will come out speaking about all of these great wonders. He will strongly profess the Hindu philosophy. Why, I don't know, but this is what they are saying. The intent is evil. This being will not have a soul. He is not spirit. He is robotoid, a clone, a robot, a synthetic. The Greys have this kind of ability to stage this kind of action using their technology. He will be the image of the man on the Shroud of Turin. The Antichrist will not be the evil soul portrayed in the Bible. The Antichrist will truly be someone who tried to express the truth on the true matters and sees the United States government as the cause of all this evil. This is what they've said. Now, I have to add this, in defense of that belief system. The Vatican, in 1960, admitted that there were 14 plagiarisms in the New Testament. They refused to say what they were, but they said that there were 14. That means you can't believe by it as gospel, so to speak, because they changed it. It wasn't God who wrote it. The church changed it and they admitted it. So, you do with that what you want. But everyone is believing it has to happen, and by us believing it has to happen, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to create it. We're going to make it happen, and they are sitting up there laughing at us, saying look at those idiots. Look what they were doing to themselves. The Greys were responsible for the Fatima episode in Portugal, where the Virgin Mary supposedly spoke to the children. This was a holographic image of a woman who professed to be the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ. The sun supposedly fell from the sky and miraculously healed people. Using great technology, these somewhat miracles did occur. But they used light and sound, which they beamed from their ship to the various people affecting these cures in their physical bodies. Now, this is technology that has been here on the earth, at least the last 100 years or more. But it is against the law now, in most places in the United States because it works. And that's color and sound. And the reason for sound work is because the entire universe is a holographic projection turned inside of itself. It's all a holograph. Virtually all the people present were implanted during the missing time phase of this episode. A large mothership positioned itself in front of the sun to create this occurrence. The reasons this is not true is because the biblical Jesus is a composite character, and as such, is an allegorical myth. The Virgin Mary is also a composite character, and these composites were made for the purposes of uniting the religions of the ancient Roman Empire so that their resources were not being used to constantly stop religious wars between different factions. In the 1950s, the so-called meetings of the Jason Society were triggered by information given to the Ultra Unit and the NSA by the Greys about the world's situation regarding pollution and population. It was at this particular time that the Greys offered little assistance or sharing of technology regarding environmental issues. This has persisted even today. The Pleiadians have in fact offered more solutions than any other group to date, but they were turned away by the NSA. This prompted the first of 3 alternatives that have been discussed in UFO circles already. These alternatives are in fact, and were in fact, a reality. That's alternative 1, 2, 3 and 4. The New World Order is in a major predicament. The Greys are 2,500 years ahead of us technologically. The black government is afraid to tell us the truth concerning this reality because they fear a revolution, overthrow, and desire self-preservation from the people who will want their scalps. 2 large motherships are on the planet right now, hiding in the oceans. One is in the Pacific Ocean, below the equator, and the other one is in the Atlantic. I don't know where. I don't know whose they are, but they were here. My sense is that they are benevolent because the government has actually talked about implementing Alternative 4, which was creating a controlled pole shift. The Andromedans have said no way would they allow this to happen. So my sense is that there are benevolent ships that are anchoring the planet on its axis. That's my opinion. The military know that this is why they are testing sound in the oceans, especially in the Pacific. Aliens have been attacking us more openly in space. It started with the Russian Phobos probe when it was destroyed. The Mars Observer was captured by reptilians on Mars. It isn't going to come online. It's gone. Also, closer to home, in December 1993, a Landsat satellite disappeared in orbit, just vanished. In August of 1993, the European Space Agency lost 2 communications satellites. Again, they literally just vanished from orbit. The Canadian Telstar was destroyed in our atmosphere on January 15, 1994. It was seen crashing to Earth. This was shot down by the Greys. Again, I don't know why. A NASA SATCOM-3 communications satellite vanished in May of 1979. It was just taken. 2 Soviet Millennia satellites were also taken. They just vanished from our orbit, from our atmosphere. Here's our scenario. The benevolent races have told the world governments that they would help us, but world governments have to dismantle their nuclear weapons. The Earth governments did not want to do this because they don't know who to trust. They created this situation and they do not know who to trust now. However, the world government is so desperate to get rid of the Greys, that they apparently have put a call out for help, using satellites. The Andromedans say there is a group that has offered to help our Earth governments with the problem of the Greys, even by giving us weapons to fight the Greys. Re-enter, the reptilians from Alpha Draconis, the only real enemies the Greys have, and that humankind has. The reptilians from Alpha Draconis have answered the call. But the Greys actually work for the Draconians. It's all part of the setup. When we invite them in here there will be no battle. And once they're here we'll never get rid of the Draconians. The Pleiadians are assisting the Andromedan Council in attempting to quarantine our solar system from invading forces, namely the Orion Group and Alpha Draconis. The quarantine line, the defense line, is between Uranus and Pluto and consists of a mixture of benevolent races, both physical and non-physical. There are Pleiadians, Andromedans, Arcturians, Sirians from Sirius, Reticulan, Accordants and Ammonians from Ummo. This line of defense is really like a last resort. Apparently, 2 huge gray motherships have already been turned back that were on their way to Earth and Mars. And apparently there were casualties on both sides in the exchange of turning them away. Please realize that currently, there are 15,000 Greys underneath the United States. The Greys, DAOs, are in fact, a renegade group of Reticulans. They are not from Reticuli and haven't been back there for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. They have been traveling through space in their arcs. Before they came to Earth, they were residing on Sirius B, that was their originating point before coming here. There are approximately 1,833 reptilians living beneath the United States. Their habitat is from 100 to 200 miles beneath the surface of the Earth. They generally live in caverns and the ancient tunnel systems created hundreds of thousands of years ago. They are not benevolent. And, every once in a while, they come up for a contact. They have been seen in New York City, Missouri, Chicago, and in the southwest United States. These areas happen to be the largest areas where missing children occur, numbering in the thousands. The Andromedans state that 13,712 children have been taken by these reptilians over the last 25 years. In Linda Moulton Howe's book, Alien Harvest, there is mention of human body parts seen in underground bases. The Andromedans confirm that we are being used for food. The Greys use our blood, and it is the reptilians that consume the live human flesh. Their favorite food is children because they lack nicotine, caffeine, and other environmental pollutants. Like we eat veal, they eat us. The Greys are searching for walk-ins, for they want to learn about spirit. I'm speaking about benevolence and not satanic possession or that kind of stuff. Walk-ins are necessary at this particular time. They are higher evolved souls. 72,000 walk-ins are on the planet right now and are a part of the Andromedan Council. 72,000 more are coming in the next 3 years to balance the negativity that is being created. Because of the Council's laws of non-intervention, the Andromedan Council found it necessary to intervene in another way without violating its Council directives. Thus, the walk-ins, who are actually Earth human beings, are here to do that kind of work. It's a backdoor approach. There are 1,531 actual benevolent human extraterrestrials on our planet right now. Where they are, I don't know. But they are here to record, report and observe, and possibly assist some of the walk-ins. And at some point, they will be leaving. But, apparently they live just like us, and they run our everyday lives. Keep these facts in mind. There are 18,000 Greys. 15,000 here on the Earth and 3,000 on the Moon. The regular government, which makes up the majority of Washington, D.C., doesn't have a clue as to what's really going on. The black government consists of various levels. At the top, they know everything. The lower levels only know small pieces, on the need-to-know basis, usually just one piece of the puzzle. The total picture is one outrageous secret based on deliberate deceit that creates the subversion of the public trust. Forewarned is forearmed. What are we going to do about it?